Hey everybody, it's Friday. Do you know where your bass player is? All right. Hope you're going to have an amazing weekend, everybody. As always, it's time for SMG viewers' comments. Let's get right to it.
Is it true that Gibson's name in Latin is Authenticus over Charges?
Why, yes. Yes, it is. In fact, the new owner's names translate into Latin as Pontius Pilate and Bigus Dickus.
Hey Glenn, episode idea perhaps. People seem to be looking for budget amps quite a bit. Perhaps a touch on some of the solid-state amps of the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, when companies were actually putting money into those products' development. The Randalls and the GKs of the world. They can be had for nearly nothing on the used market.
You know, that's something I want to do this August. I think I'm going to maybe start a weekly series of hidden gems throughout the last 30 years or whatnot, because some really cool amps came out that were really underrated. They didn't quite have the market penetration or, the legendary or mythological stories behind them like, say, Marshall or Mesa did, but there's some really cool stuff out there. Yes, Gallion Kruger being one of those brands. I played a GK for many years during the late 80s and early 90s and absolutely love that amp. It only made one sound, but oh boy, does it ever sound great. Same thing with my Sun Beta Lead, which is probably 4 years overdue for a show. So I think I am going to finally get going on that. Thanks for the suggestion. You guys keep your eyes peeled. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Hi Glenn, so I've been a fan of the show for a long time and I know your thoughts on samples and quantized drums. The question was influenced by listening to Matt Grenier of August Burns Red. What are your thoughts on layering blending samples with drum performance for a better sound? Also, what do you think of the standard of metal being perfect on the record? Is it okay to make the best product possible in the studio even though people know perfection isn't possible? Thanks very much from New Jersey.
Whoa, first off, I gotta say this. I'm not familiar with August Burns Red's music. I've heard the name of the band, that's about it. I don't think I've actually listened to anything, so I'm not going to comment on them in particular. I've said this numerous times. Can't we just hear the fucking drummer? Why do we have to layer it up? Why do we have to have all this computer assistance? Oh, well, we're just layering samples. Yes, you're layering it with bullshit. The drummer didn't play those sounds. Let's hear the fucking band. God, why do we always insist on, taking, a performance and then, putting corners on it and putting it on rails and making it paint by numbers? It's just so fucking boring. As for perfection, I think we hear a lot of that on records these days, and it's all done with computer assistance. Give me Queen's Night at the Opera any day.
I'm having trouble understanding my bandmates. We created a list of covers we want to do along with a lineup of what instruments to play. Whatever was on there, we did it. We had agreed upon date of completion for Spreading the Disease by Queensryche, and they haven't practiced. They don't play hard rock metal a lot, however, the parts aren't too difficult, but if they were too hard, they don't ask for help and tell me until it's too late. I think that they could have just agreed to it without having any intention of practicing the song. So my question is, should I just drop the song? Feel bad for choosing a song in a genre that they don't like/play? Get the heck out or dodge, work through it, something else? Fuck you, Glenn, thanks.
Well, I think you just told yourself that your bandmates really aren't professionals. If they say they're going to do something, then they need to learn the song, like they said they were going to. If they didn't want to do the song, they should have objected to the song. That's what a professional will do. The fact that they never said a damned thing until it's time to play the song should tell you everything you need to know about playing with those guys. Don't look at me for answers on this one. I think you know the answer already and just don't want to admit it. Good luck, my friend. And now it's time for
the Butthurt of the Week.
What people don't get is that Gibson and Fender are classic sounds that will never go away. If the buying music public decides it wants to rock and roll again, it will not turn to Jackson, Dean, or Spectre. Those brands are an aberration, vestiges from when the sound of rock raced to the bottom. All you kids playing in drop A are part of a fad that will pass. It was not Gibson's guitar division that caused its bankruptcy, and the luthier in its video probably knows that, but knows that you can be manipulated because you don't know that. Gibson is and will be fine. They will continue to be the guitar you hear on the best records. All these artists recording with flat fret-boarded basswood guitars with the last 10 stop boxes sound like shit. It's like mumble rock for rock and rollers.
Dude, you forgot that. And you kids stay off my lawn!
Glenn! What are your thoughts on how important a good sub is for mixing? I recently started using one and reviewed some older mixes I did, and damn, the low end was all over the place. This made it easier to start balancing my low end, especially with the added help of using Reference Pro mixes.
Well, if a sub's getting you the results you're enjoying, good, as long as it translates into the real world. Now, I've got, kind of a mixed opinion on a sub. Sometimes it can help, sometimes it doesn't help. It really depends on your situation. I'd worry more about where the monitors are placed in your room than anything. I'm still working on the Cali demo video. Whenever the hell that comes out, it's going to show you guys just how much of a difference we got from moving the monitors to different places in the room with zero treatment. It made a gigantic difference, especially when it came to hearing the low end properly. So, if you're finding that adding a sub really changed your look on how you're hearing the low end, you might want to consider, where are your monitors placed in the room? For what it's worth, it's Spectre Sound Mark I, that we started way back in 1998 to about 2003. I mixed with a sub, and I've been in here since 2003, and I don't mix with a sub, and I get far better translations from this setup here. So take that for what it's worth. Your mileage may vary.
Hey Glenn, I'm getting really serious into recording, and I was wondering about room calibration. What are your thoughts on it, and have you done it yourself?
Yes, I've used the SonarWorks system in here. I've done a couple mixes on it, and I was very, very impressed with it, and then it just kind of fell by the wayside. I gotta still finish up that video at one point or another. It's seriously long overdue. Again, calibration's absolutely fine. That will help flatten your mixing perspective out, and you should get far better translations into the real world. But I still think monitor placement is going to be the first, easiest, and cheapest way of doing it. I'd say do that first and then go with the calibration software.
So, you're in Windsor again? Thought you moved to LA. What the fuck?
Well, I'm still living in LA part-time. I'm there for a few months, then I'm home for a few months, then I'm there for a few months, then I'm home for a few months. It's going to be that way for the foreseeable future. So, sorry for the confusion, but yes, I'm living in both places. Not necessarily at the same time, but for several weeks to several months at any given time. As it stands right now, I'm going to be home probably till mid to the end of October. Then I'm going to head back to LA once things start cooling off here in Windsor. I'm not a huge fan of Windsor, but the summers are pretty good here.
Hey, can you help me? I'm confused by choosing a guitar between a Fender Strat American and a Les Paul 60s and the PRS S2. There are models, I like the body and the sound. Please help me.
Dude, all I can say to this one is you're going to have to find the answer to that question yourself. I am in no way qualified to tell anyone what guitar they should pick out of those three. All I can do is make recommendations out of what I like and I've played. I like Strats, I like Les Pauls, I like PRSs, I like all of them. If I had to choose, that would be really tough. I might go with the PRS. Really depends on the price and the level of guitar and all that kind of crap. But that's just me. That's how I like the feel of a guitar. What you're going to like really depends on you. My suggestion would be go to some guitar stores, pick some up, and try a few out and see what agrees with you. Because ultimately, you're the one who has to make that decision and live with it.
Want to hear amazing non-pitch corrected vocals? Brad Delp on Boston, 1976.
Absolutely. There's a million records from that era that just have brilliant freaking vocals. Yeah, Boston is absolutely fantastic. There's also the aforementioned Queen Night at the Opera, Judas Priest, Sad Wings of Destiny. Anything from that era with a decent vocal is going to have some pretty amazing stuff on it because there was no computer correction back in those days. The musicians actually had to do it. Wow, what a novel idea.
Hey Glenn, I just finished a degree in audio and I'm thinking of starting a mixing service because I don't have the funds or facilities to record. Given that most people can mix their own stuff these days, is there any point to continue with this plan or should I wait till I get more money to offer a recording service as well?
Ooh, that's a very tough one. I like these tough questions you guys are throwing at me. The trick is, if you want to offer a recording service, you better be able to offer a recording service that the guy down the street doesn't already offer. So learn how to track real drums. That would be my suggestion. A lot of bands will track their guitars at home and then bring in files that you can reamp and that kind of thing. The days where the band would come into the studio and everybody'd stand around the drummer and everybody jam the fuck out and lay something down. I think those days are kind of by the wayside, and that's kind of a shame, to be honest with you. But I think you're going to find more often than not, guitar players going to come at you with maybe dry tracks for reamping, or they've recorded their guitars at home themselves, that kind of thing. And you're going to rely on you to put the entire thing together. So ask yourself how you can offer a service to make that work for the bands. Maybe get into reamping, maybe get into drum editing. There's going to be work out there, but you've just got to find your niche.
Hey Glenn, the other guitarist in my band says that he prefers the raw tone of his Marshall JVM, after I suggested he should try out my Boss Super Overdrive in the front. I feel like his tone would be a lot tighter and better overall with a boost, but I don't know how to go about trying to convince him to give it another try.
I'm kind of torn on this one. It sounds like you plugged it in and he didn't like what it did. That could be either two things. Number one, he really likes the original sound of his Marshall and that's why he bought it. Or number two, maybe he's just afraid of change, and fear can be a big motivator and keeping you exactly where you are and from trying new things. The fact that the other thing could be ego, the fact that you brought it to him and he didn't discover it for himself, that can be a big one as well. Who knows, man? Musicians can be incredibly stubborn. And once they're comfortable with something, when you come along and suggest something new, it can be like fucking pulling teeth trying to get them to do anything. I don't know. I worked with bands for 20 years in here and had fucking argument after argument trying to get musicians to try something that wouldn't make them suck as much. So, best of luck to you. I think you're gonna have far more luck shooting bullets at the sun.
Please talk about all the first-hand experience you've had with Gibson guitars. Please tell us about the hundreds of them they've touched or tried to set up to repair or modify. Explain to us how your first-hand experience with Gibson guitars qualifies you in any way to speak about their quality control. If you worked on them, played them, set them up, modified them, you must have a wealth of experience to share with us about how you have personally experienced enough Gibson guitars to be statistically relevant. P.S. I can't wait to see how you spin this.
Okay, you got me. I'm not a fucking luthier. I don't do guitar repairs. Congratulations. Guilty as fucking charged. But I will tell you this. I've had far too many sessions where guitar players will bring in a Gibson guitar and I spend more time tuning them than recording them.
Hey Glenn, I love your show. I'm a subscriber who is not a musician. I don't record anything, I'm just entertained by your show. I started watching because of the stupid musician texts don't ever stop. I've heard lots of stuff that I never knew and wanted to know. But damn boy, what the fuck happened to you to make you go out of your way to attack religion? I can understand your point of view quite easily, but live and live, big guy. Love the show and fuck you, Glenn.
Oh, why do I go to my way to attack religion? Oh, I don't know. Fucking churches on every street corner. The fact that religion campaigned relentlessly against heavy metal in the 80s, telling people it was bad, don't do this, it's gonna corrupt your kids. Meanwhile, they're shuffling the kids off to be sexually molested in the back rooms of churches across the world. That might have something to do with it. The fact that religions campaign against scientific knowledge and the betterment of mankind in the name of their dogma. That might have a little something to do with it. The fact that people still preach complete impossibilities like Noah's Ark in the face of what we know today. That is a step backwards. So just for the record, I've always been against bullshit and religion spews it out like nobody else. Now, just because I don't respect what you believe doesn't mean I'm disrespecting you as a person. I'm sure you're a reasonable person. I've got a lot of friends who are Christians. One of my best friends is a minister, and I still love giving him the gears every chance I get because he totally deserves it. So, I just wish everybody out there will have an amazing weekend. Thanks so much for watching the show. And as always, Hasadigi Boy.